Hey everybody, this is Perch. I'm going to state a little bit of the obvious here, and hopefully for most of you, you're just like, yeah, I get this. Why are you even talking about it? But it bears repeating from time to time. I think for everybody, not all comics, not all books, not all movies, not all anything are for everyone. There's no one single book that works for everybody, and it's okay if you read something that is not really intended for you, not your audience, and you hate it. This is the big fallacy: is that you're not supposed to. People are like, you're not supposed to hate something that's not for you. No, you can still hate it. Of course you can. And I'll give you this example. I read to my children. It's one of those things that will go away. I think soon. We're heading toward the end of that run with my older daughter, but I still read to my children, and I find it a good bonding experience, and it's good. Now, not most, some of what I read to them is absolute shit. I just they enjoy it, they ask for it, and it's the book I'm reading to them, so I try and read good things. And sometimes then they hand something to me and I read it. It's absolute garbage. I've read them the Harry Potter books. That's kind of like a medium. They're okay, but it's like they're not as excited about it as like 30-year-old people I see at Barnes and Noble. But it's fine. They really loved The Once and Future King. It's kind of above them, but they really love that book. They love the Roald Dahl stuff. Absolutely great. And I like reading Roald Dahl is always fun. I'm fine with that. But like my younger daughter likes this series called Pinkalicious, and if you have children, you know the horror of that book and that series. If you don't have children, you've never heard of this before, you might think that's some kind of pervy adult content. But Pinkalicious is just absolute garbage, and I despise it. I cannot stand that book. I hate it on every level, and it's okay for me to hate it. At the same time, while I'm hating it, I recognize this is not written for a 40-year-old man. This is not written for me. This is written for the audience that is asking for it, namely the 7-year-old girl who wants me to read this to her. And I'm sure others as well. It's meant for kids. So if we hop over to comics for a moment, you get things like you have the I Am Not Starfire book. You have the these YA efforts that DC are putting out, including the recent Naomi Real One. And so when you look at this book, for many people who are tried and true comic book fans, this book is clearly not for them. It's clearly aimed at a different audience. I say clearly. I am hoping a little bit. I highly doubt there's somebody at DC going, we're going to get this, this mid-40s male comic reader whose favorite works include Watchmen and Lobo, and this book, Nubia, is going to be their new favorite jam. I don't think that's happening. I highly doubt it. If it is happening, then truly we have all lost. We give up. We can all go home. But that's not their intent. Their intent is there's a new generation of readers, and we're going to give them Nubia. It is because comic fans read comics, and because a lot of the characters cross over. Nubia has Wonder Woman. I Am Not Starfire has Starfire. It's not crazy for traditional comic readers to pick these things up and say, all right, I like Starfire. Let's see what Starfire's up to in this issue, and hate it. And I think here's where a lot of the people who defend these books need to also recognize that you can't, people are going to watch whatever they're going to watch. They're going to read whatever they're going to read, and they will like it, they will hate it, and it's okay for somebody to hate your book. It's a perfectly reasonable, rational, normal emotion. It's normal. We can't stop dramatizing this. It's normal. The question is, and this is really the core question, is the audience you're trying to hit with this book liking it? Stop wasting energy trying to tell the audience you're not aiming for what they should do, that they should like it or dislike it. Stop. Like you look at right now, the writer for Naomi Real One on Twitter is like a lunatic. I'm just the behavior is lunatic. I don't know what the human is like, whatever. But if you go there, it's like there's this angry defense of everybody criticizing the book as a racist, and it's y'all are terrible, and just the most, like the flamethrower came out immediately. It was out day of release. I went over there to say like, hey, at the very least, this writer's probably happy, right, that the book's out, and can take some pride in that. I go over the artist page. The artist is like, hey, I'm glad the book's out. And the artist seems happy. The writer is pissed on release day, pissed, and then every day after is more pissed, just angry, just pissed. And it's like, take the win. God, you got a book out. Take the win. But regardless of that, so much of the focus are on those mean, awful, older people who are reading this book and hating it. And my comment is, well, of course they're going to. It's not, forget about the quality for a moment. It's a book that is not aimed for them. It's using brands that they are familiar with, but in a completely unfamiliar way. Of course they're going to dislike it. Why are you investing energy into fighting with that? And frankly, it's not a weird reaction. Like, it's not an abnormal reaction for fans to hate this. If you're used to a certain type of content, that everybody's being normal here. What's being missed is the question of, hey, is the audience this is aimed for liking it? And by the way, the audience that it's aimed for is not Comics Beat or friends on Twitter who are the same age as the writer. That's not who this book is aimed for either. Now, if they pick it up and they like it, good on them. If the 40, 50, 60, 70, whatever year old man who is reading this likes it, cool. Be happy. But this book is aimed at a younger audience. It says so. It's marketed there. It's produced by, at the time, Michelle Wells, who was, basically trying to build out this YA imprint of the line. We know who this book was aimed for. And then the question becomes, is that group happy? Because that really is the question that matters. Same thing we have upcoming, Mariko Tamaki, I Am Not Starfire. Who's this book aimed at? Well, once again, we don't have to guess. We can look at it from the PR and the solicitation. They are aiming this at YA. They're aiming this at not the direct market. They're aiming it at a different audience. So will the direct market hate it? Yes, 100% it's going to. Of course it's going to. I mean, forget about just the fact that the continuity is all raw. I mean, just on every level, you're creating something that traditional comic fans are probably going to dislike. Again, will you get a couple of them? Will you get, people at Comics Beat posting that this is a brave, new, amazing entry and incredible and your new favorite book? Maybe, but that's kind of irrelevant. Is the YA audience you're targeting liking this book? And this is where I feel like, you get to the why isn't DC succeeding more in YA? Well, because if I go back to that book I mentioned at the beginning, Pinkalicious, a book I despise, my 7-year-old daughter loves that book. Her classmates love that book, that series, this character. It's a cartoon, I guess, now. I walked into the living room and that terrible, terrible character is on my TV. And I'm like, God damn it, it's spreading. But I mean, that audience loves it. Scholastic and other places that are selling these books, they know the audience loves these characters and they're making money. Meanwhile, with DC and others, I'm not just picking on DC, you don't see the same attachment with their efforts. You don't see the same excitement. What you do see is a lot of anger, complaining about why grown, male adults are not liking their stuff and they should shut up and they should not, and it's not for them, and this kind of whole fight. Meanwhile, the actual goal, the actual target audience isn't really being talked about, isn't being marketed to, and isn't going for the book. Now, I don't know. It's too early to tell if Naomi's going to be a huge smash hit with all the schools. It's definitely too early to tell about Starfire. That book is still months away. But their previous efforts aren't clicking. Primer did, and magically, if you go onto Amazon, you will see that Primer holds up with good numbers. Amazing. I think Raven Beast Boy is doing good numbers. Again, amazing. Other titles, that Nora book with Mr. Freeze, not doing good numbers. Again, with the audience it's trying to get to, and that's kind of the to me the very obvious point in all this is, yes, books are written for different people. Clearly, not every book is written for everyone. Clearly, if a book is not written for you and you read it, you have a perfect right to hate it. You also, I mean, and I'll just slide this under the door as well in this point, you should ask yourself at some point why you are reading things that you are, most likely going to hate. But that's between you. That's you. It's your time. It's your dollar. That's your choice. That's, that's between you and your wallet. That's none of our matter. But I would just say, for your own sanity, you should at least try and steer toward things you're not going to hate. I think that would be a good idea. But you do what you want. But in the midst of all of this, are these titles actually succeeding with the audience they're going for? I can say I really dislike Nubia. I did. I didn't find the book good at all. But is anyone? Is the audience, who is clearly not me, going for that book, going for I Am Not Starfire, going for these different efforts? If you want this line to succeed, it has to stick with them. And as long as you're sticking with some audience, you're good. That's what makes a success. That's why Pinkalicious continues to vomit out more volumes of that god-awful series. It works. The people enjoy it. If the kids didn't, then whether I hate it or not, it would be canceled. It's just that simple. I don't know. Let me know what you think. I find this whole debate very frustrating because on one hand, yeah, people are reading things, they're reading stuff clearly not aimed for them, and they're just like, yeah, I get it. But I guess I'm just struck by the author of Naomi, who, rather than take the win of having a book out, rather than focus on the audience that in theory she wrote this book for, it's all about fighting the baddies who are clearly not the target market for the book. Like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? You're wasting your time. Anyway, let me know what you think. Like and subscribe. Follow me on all those places. You can see how to email and everything else in the description to this video. I've got the podcasts up if you want to listen to those on your streaming service of choice. And thanks for listening.